iHeartRadio station.
And the Vandellas old school Motown song is the mantra for the Minnesota Vikings defense in 2023. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. It would be antithetical to some things we saw last year with the Vikings defense, specifically that little screen to Saquon Barkley in the playoff game where you got former Viking Chandon Sullivan during the course of the play running around yelling at people, pointing for places for people to go during the play. Jordan Hicks and Eric Kendricks running into each other, and that was kind of symbolic for a lot of things that transpired with the Minnesota Vikings defense last year. Now, Brian Flores is the new defensive coordinator, and the full-time beat writer covering the Minnesota Vikings for The Athletic and theathletic.com is Alec Lewis, who is in studio with us now. It is at Alec_Lewis, if you are so inclined to follow him on Twitter, as 9 to Noon does. Alec Lewis is in studio. Has the heat out there at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center gotten to you at all? And good morning.
No, of course not. I mean, this is what I grew up in.
Good morning.
Great morning. It's a great morning.
Thank you.
I'm very thankful to be here. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. It's been a minute. My dad actually texted me last night unprompted. He's like, when are you going back on with PA?
What's up, Dad?
He's like, he's the funny. He thinks you're as funny as I think you're. It's the same deal.
What does he do down Anniston Way?
Is
he a dairy farmer?
How'd you know?
Okay, that's what I thought.
I know, it's crazy. His milk is phenomenal.
Wow.
I mean, it's good.
Okay.
You're hilarious.
I'm glad he doesn't run like a butcher shop, because then you would be like, nobody beats Dad's meat.
Nordo.
I'm sorry. Nordo couldn't care less.
Yeah, he's been through this a million times. But no, he was like, I'm excited for you to get back on. So it is a great morning. The heat is, I'm used to it, but it still sucks.
Right.
It's like the cold. It's like, I don't know. Maybe people here are so like, oh, we lived through this cold. This is fine. This is normal. But like, I've always said, like, hot is hot, and it's in and out there. I mean, I don't know. I said this to you earlier, but like I had maybe like 8 waters in like an hour span. And then I'm like trying to interview players. I've had so much water. I got to probably go to the bath. You're dealing with the elements out there, but right. I have loved being out there. I will tell you that.
Do beat writers, are they required? Good morning, Dad. Are beat writers required to go through OTAs for training camp? And what I mean, organized typing activities. So therefore, when it comes to the keystrokes and the OTAs, the organized typing activities, do you find that helps you when it comes to handling a training camp?
So actually, I was in Florida last week for another story thing I'm working on, and I felt like that was my organized element activity.
Organized typing activities.
Right. Did you just make that up? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is unbelievable sometimes.
Thank you.
But no, my words per minute are always good, so I don't really have to worry about that. Just when, the lights, I don't have to flip the light switch at a certain time. The typing is always there.
At Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, you and I will chat every single time. And like I'm chatting with Judd Zolgad and Kevin Seifert, Matthew Collar, some people I see around there all the time, elite football minds. And, with specifically Judd and Kevin, I mean, we've just known each other forever. It's like old school, best school. And, then I'll head to the exclusive Vikings Radio Network perch, which overlooks 4 perfectly manicured practice fields. Used to be 5 before you got here, but they eliminated and excavated the Mike Hughes Memorial Field. So now we're down to 4. So I'll head over to the perch, whip out the binoculars and the big roster that Carly Bonk and her team make for me to get ready for this Super Chickens game. And we got a lot of numbers to memorize. We got Tristan Jackson doing one thing and Lucky Jackson over there. Then we got Troy Reeder, and I didn't realize how thick he was.
Oh, he's thick.
And then I thought this Podlesny, whatever, I thought he was a linebacker. I'm looking at, who is this? Oh, wait, he's the kicker from Georgia? Damn! So I'm memorizing all that under the cover of some shade on that perch.
Must be nice.
So that's the point here is I'll get there and then all the Vikings have run out. So you guys have all done your pictures and here comes JJ on the video, put it on Twitter. Hope certain people retweet it to
engagement, content,
increase the followers, stuff like that. Please the New York Times. Yeah. But nevertheless, when that's done and it's time to start watching the drills, yesterday, I don't think you, and I'm tripping now, I apologize, and he does a really good job with it. Matthew Collar's production is Purple what?
Purple Insider, I believe.
Purple Insider, thank you. Okay, so Matthew's there for that. You're there for the Athletic. It could be Gessling, Kramer, whomever. But when that part of the equation is done, and Spearfish Sammy is like, okay, you can tweet, but no pictures, no videos.
Yeah.
You guys couldn't. There are small spaces next to the stands that have shade, and it's like 2.5 feet of shade against the wall. You guys could not have scurried to that shade any faster. I mean, it was, I can't remember who did this song. Maybe Dave Matthews, Ants Marching.
Yeah.
Was it Dave Matthews?
Oh, of course.
It was Ants. So I'm over on the perch in the binoculars watching the Ants march to just as quickly as you can to get to that shade. That's how freaking hot it is.
There's the bleachers, and then there's a little perch with a little thing of shade, and you just you're stepping back. It's like if it's pouring and you're walking on the sidewalk and you go under the small little awning.
Yeah.
But yeah, look at my face. You can see I'm red. I put on sunscreen and I prep for it, and my hands are all greasy. And
good morning, Dad.
I was putting on sunscreen in the bathroom yesterday, and
you're such a joy.
And
man.
some guy walked in there and he's like, "You good?" And I was like, "I'm good now, but I'm about to." Yeah. So no, but all kidding aside, I'm glad you mentioned Judd and Kevin, just because I was thinking about this last night. And I was debating I don't know. I don't need to say this, but when I moved up here, there's a lot of reasons that I wanted to do it. But one of the things I am really grateful for is those guys like Judd and Kevin and Ben. They've done it for a long time.
Yeah.
When someone's new and they're as young as I am, and you come in the building, they don't have to treat. There's a lot of ego in this business, but those guys have been as welcoming, helpful,
accommodating.
Yeah. And obviously you, but those guys who are the people who are there. And I was thinking about it last night, man, it's pretty fortunate to be on a beat where that's the case. Yeah. And I don't know if the fans care or if I don't know who cares, but it feels important to me to kind of highlight that because it's not in every situation.
Absolutely.
These guys have done it forever.
If you're rolling in from writing features on Locaine, and you're now covering the Eagles, I bet you it's different. Or if you're covering the Jets or the Giants,
correct.
You're trying to get elbow room next to Steve Serby.
Right.
And he might not want you there.
And it's not like we're not competitive. We all obviously want to, but I just, even from the very beginning, Judd and Kevin, I could listen to Judd and Kevin. They've got these.
Yeah.
They've done this for so long, and I think that's one of the fun things about being out there beyond just watching.
The conversation before the action begins.
Exactly.
Hearkening to when it was hot like this in Mankato.
Right.
Or hearkening to when somebody hid Gabe Northern's bike and he wanted to fight half the team. Or Dante Culpepper in 2002. They had bikes in Mankato and he was far too big for his bike riding around the streets of Mankato. And He had a little bell on his bike and tassels coming off the side, and he'd like go ding, ding, hi, guys, and then go out to practice. I mean, Kevin and Judd and so many have just been part of stories like that. He's Alec Lewis. He covers the Vikings for The Athletic, theathletic.com. You can subscribe to The Athletic. I would encourage it, specifically now with baseball in approaching deep stretch, and the National Football League approaching the start of the race. It's theathletic.com at Alec_Lewis via Twitter. And we have some pertinent Vikings-related conversation to get into around the corner, including some things yours truly saw and talked about earlier in the show regarding Jaron Hall, the quarterback from BYU, and much more when we return. But first, this.
The Fan and NMC Exteriors want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Just use the keyword bank at KFAN.com. Might win $1,000. The keyword is bank. The web.
You can listen to The Fan.
Party people! Yeah! Tag team music in full effect. That's me, DC, the brain supreme. And my man Steve Rowland. We're kicking the flow. And it goes a little something like this. Tag team, back again. Check it to record, let's begin. Party on, party people, let me hear some noise. DC's in the house, jump, rejoices. There's a party over here, a party over there.
9 to noon, 10:21.
Get it in here. I got one thing to say. This is when the big dogs come out. Okay? You can't roll with the big dogs. Stay on the board.
Let's begin here. What have you seen that sticks out through 2 days? Because at The Athletic and theathletic.com right now, I've seen some Alec Lewis stories of late that include position battles, which includes the punt return situation. Also, there are 2 kickers there, the Georgia kid and Greg Joseph. I think maybe most recently, or one of the last 3, Cousins and Danielle Hunter, and uncertainty complicating the Vikings team building approach. Your stories are always good. I thought that was really meaty. You can find all that at theathletic.com. All that's part of what intrigues Alec Lewis through the first 2 days of training camp. But outside of that, what intrigues you?
Yeah, I'll give you 3 things. The first is Jordan Addison and the way he moves around the field. It just stands out.
Twitchy.
Yeah, I mean, he just looks fluid. Like, I always think about it with Justin. This is no comparison, not even close, but I just think like Justin just moves differently on the field, and Jordan has a little bit of that where you just watch him, he just looks so fluid. So and he's caught everything. Like, I haven't seen him drop a ball. After the first practice, he came back out with Nick Mullins after everybody had gone in and they were working together. I thought that was interesting. So I'll start with Jordan Addison. The second thing that I think I'll say, I mean, I thought it's been really interesting to see the cornerback room and how that's sorted out. Caleb Evans has gotten a lot of snaps. Byron Murphy, obviously, and then Jawan Williams, who is a former second-round pick of the Patriots, played at Vanderbilt, didn't play all of last year, but this guy, you know this just watching, he's gigantic at cornerback. It's like, how does the body even move like that? But you think about the physicality that Brian Flores would want, and I've been really impressed by him, and I think that room is something that I'll continue to watch. And then the third thing, and you touched on this at the very top, and people are going to joke around about it, I'm sure, but Josh Oliver, I mean, this guy from a physical, I talked to him yesterday. I shook his hand, introduced myself. He's like a quiet guy, but I mean, I'm like, this guy could be like a heavyweight UFC guy. Like,
I think he has a family member. It might be a cousin or an uncle, like Darren Oliver. And you're an elite baseball mind. So, like, Darren Oliver was in Major League Baseball for like 15 years or something.
All I know is there was one pass pattern where he caught the ball over the middle, and then he took off. Like, you know, it's his training camp. They're not even in pads yet, but they're like, it's like, run out the play, finish the play. So I'm standing, like, looking at him running towards me, and I'm like, I don't know who in the world could tackle that guy if he's running at that speed, at that size.
Right.
And so...
if somebody decided to make him a gunner, which is not going to happen, can you imagine that running down the field? It's a runaway freight train.
I was thinking it's like the Indiana Jones, like the ball rolling down, like run, like. But no, seriously, like, I'm not saying he's going to go out and be a pro. Like, I really, but all I know is just from a physicality standpoint, it's been really interesting. And now we can talk about Jaron Hall and all this other stuff, but those 3. I think the Jordan Addison, seeing him, the cornerback room and how that's looked so far and how it shakes out, and then Josh Oliver and the ways they're going to use him, that's kind of where I'm at in terms of what I've looked at and what I've found really interesting.
Any idea? Good morning, Dad. Any idea why Marcus? What's your dad's name?
John.
Okay. Good morning, John. Any idea why Marcus Davenport chose 0? And see, like yesterday, I'm looking at the roster and everything, and I knew we wore 0, but I mean, there are a lot of numbers to choose. And 0 is associated with nothing. And copyright Billy Preston, nothing from nothing means nothing. And so therefore, 0 there must be something personal with him with 0. Who in the hell wears 0?
It's a great. You, of course, you're sitting up there with the binoculars, and that's all probably going through your head. Like, I don't know. Like, for me, I'm like sitting there trying to figure out: are they pulling guards? Are they gap scheme oriented? I'm focused on that, and you're thinking about the real things that I should probably be thinking about in terms of talking.
I just know there's a bit that goes into it. And you're a storyteller. There has to be.
Well, it is funny. I haven't talked to him a ton, but he seems like a very interesting guy.
I haven't met him yet.
Yeah, he walked across the field yesterday. This was after practice, and I said, "Does this remind you of New Orleans heat?" And he said, "Not really." I said, "Is it worse or better?" He said, I don't really care. Like, I was like, but he's a past personality, but he's just a funny, quirky guy. So I'm looking forward to talk to him a little more. 0, I have no idea, but we can find an answer to that. I'm fortunate that I get to ask the question.
Have you, Alec, seen anything descript with Andrew Booth Jr.'s game? I can't find him on the field. I'm not even sure he's a human being, with all due respect. Well, seriously, I mean, I know they drafted him. I know he supposedly played here in Clemson or whatever. And really, I mean, I'd like to see the kid succeed. Because it's been a tough start for him with these injuries, and he had some nagging stuff in college too. But it's like when I get my binoculars on the defense, memorizing the numbers, I just like with what you said about a Caleb, I saw multiple times where he had Byron Murphy on one side, Joejuan Williams, the expatriate, on the other side, and then they go nickel and Murphy goes inside and the Caleb came in.
Correct.
Okay, well, Mekhi Blackman is somebody I actually have a big opinion of, and I don't know if and or when he will jump into the equation, but I think I'm going to guess they hit on Blackman, and we're going to have to wait a second for it, but I think they really, really hit on him. Well, then that's plays more into the mystery of who is Andrew Booth Jr. and what does he do?
I have 3 things on that. 1, you're exactly right. Like, I haven't really noticed Andrew Booth Jr. and the fact he has been on the field and he's healthy, and we'll start there. So, but yeah, that's been an interesting. The second thing I have on that is I am with you 1,000% on Mekhi Blackman. There was a pattern yesterday where he travels up the field with Tristan Jackson. I mean, just competitive as heck with that pass, and then he swats the ball away, pass breakup, and he's just competitive, and you can see it like it. And I don't like. There's only so much as a writer you can really notice, but that's the other thing. And the third thing on this,
but see, like stop there with Mekhi.
Yeah.
And he's a rookie, okay, and he's trying to find his lot in life. He's good, and he makes plays like that. But unlike the quarterback series, say with Patrick Mahomes, he's not like to even Tristan Jackson, Lucky Jackson, or Blake Prohl. He's not like, I am that MF. I am that MF. I am that MF. He's not that guy. He's cocksure,
quieter,
but he's quiet with it, man. I'm really impressed by that.
And I think that's like I mean, he's a rookie, so I think that's probably part of it, right? So he's not going to be out there just screaming around, hollering around. This is his first time. He's probably like, I'm going to prove the heck out of this on the field, and that gets me. The third thing I was going to say is I wrote about this for today, but I sat down with Louis Sean yesterday for about 10 minutes.
Nice.
And he was like, he said to me, I didn't do anything last year. I have to prove it to the organization, to the coaches, to myself. And then we got back around to the end, and he's like, you know what? Like, I could keep talking. I asked him, like, is there anything that you feel like we on the outside haven't realized or say? He's like, you know what? No, like, I'm just tired of talking about it. I have to be action oriented. I have to apply myself with the playbook. I have to learn, and I have to show it on the field. And I think I was really impressed by just his mindset and his responsibility, ownership of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, he dealt with a gruesome injury, but you could tell, like, he is not sorry for himself with it. He's like, I still have a lot to prove. And so that mindset, I think, is tangentially related to Mekhi Blackman in that this guy's a rookie and he's out there like, this is my time. I'm going to prove it on the field, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. After
now, the story Alec is referencing, available at The Athletic, theathletic.com right now, it begins with Lewis Cine sat down on a cement railing and tugged at his golden dreadlocks. The second training camp practice of his second National Football League season had just wrapped up. And he was talking like a guy who would prefer his play do the talking for him. John Lewis, I'd like to let you know that is the verbal version delivered by your son of this.
The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea. With a rollicking song, he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously.
So now with the preseason games, and we have a game in 13 days in the Cappuccino capital, I was bouncing around with some Elite Football Minds yesterday, the who, what, where, when, and why of playing time, and like who we think is going to play in these games. Because last year at this time, what's KOC going to do? What's he going to do? What's he going to do? Yeah. Then we had the Niners a joint practice. And there was more accomplished there than you can possibly accomplish in any preseason game. So no Kirk, no Dalvin, no JJ, no all the ones, none of them, and it even trickled into the twos. So what's your take on Lewis Cine off the injury playing in the preseason? I'm a fan of him getting reps in the preseason for two reasons. A, he needs them. But B, if you don't play him because he's coming off an injury, even though he's out there practicing, well, that means you're playing scared. Then that means you come into it like we are worried. And I just don't think that's the right approach to this young man.
I think he'll play. And I think a lot of it too, and this was just going through my mind as I talked to him yesterday, is like this, if you flip on the Georgia film, and I did this yesterday just to like remind myself of what he looked like at the level at which he earned the first round pick. And this guy is flying around the field. He's not loud, but he's confident out there. He's standing over guys. He's laying his hat on the line. And I think he played with like a confidence that if you allow him to play in the preseason games, and yes, he could mess up, he could miss assignments, and that would be obviously negative. But I think if you allow him to build that confidence level smartly, I think that benefits him as a player in terms of his psyche going into the season, whatever his role may be. And I also think when you have Cam Bynum and Harrison Smith and Josh Metellus as three safeties, you can feel comfortable that you can play him and you'll be okay, even if obviously he has some type of setback. So I'm all for it, and I think it's smart to bring up because I really think it is worth talking about for evaluation purposes.
He grabbed at his braids once more, twisting, turning, thinking. After several silent seconds, I asked him why he so steadfastly felt this way.
Unbelievable.
The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea.
Speaking of Cam Bynum, Cam's better. Now, he's supposed to be better in his third year, just more comfortable. And maybe it's the Flores defense, the 3-4 hybrid with floaters. That's just one, that's one iteration of it. But nevertheless, Cam, what I like about Cam, and this really became the case for me before you got here in 2021, because he's a rookie from Cal, played all that corner, and you know the whole story. But, he wasn't playing, but he was active, just like a lot of rookies. Well, Harrison Smith got bit with COVID, so he got bit. We're at Baltimore. Well, the testing was unveiled the morning of the game.
I didn't know that.
So Cam Bynum, like I'd say 6-7 hours before the game at the team hotel, he's like in a ballroom with the secondary coach going through certain things. And I think, quite honestly, I think the Minnesota Vikings, they brought in former Red Sox pitcher Tim Wakefield, and they showed Cam Bynum, look, this is what Lamar Jackson's passes look like.
Oh, boy, it was just an ugly one.
So we want you to be ready. And he had an interception and a sack in that game. All right, well, off that, when do I get to play? I want to play. Well, I mean, he didn't play. He played, but he didn't play a ton after that because Hitman was no longer bit into the next game. The way Cam handled that, and then some problems he had last year, some good moments and bad moments, the way he handled that. But knowing that Metellus, mostly due to your part of the Athletic breakout players, which was very controversial. And
was it?
And they drafted Jay Ward, who is the floater of all floaters ever to float into the 3-4 hybrid. I mean, that lanky thing, I mean, just running all over the place. And of course, they have Harry and they have Scene. So Cam's just so comfortable with his lot in life. And I think that's leading to him playing faster.
Yeah, I mean, he played every snap last year, I think, and we forget that, because it was just, I don't know, the defense was what it was, and it was so hard to think about any positive watching that defense every day. But the one thing about Cam Bynum is, you never have to worry about him understanding the assignment or the scheme or the playbook. I know there were those blown coverages in Philadelphia and against the Lions, but you talk to people inside the building, I think a lot of that was Cam Dantzler missing assignments and not Cam Bynum. And if you talk to Cam Bynum about scheme, as I like to do a lot last year because I'm learning the game from a pretty base level, Cam was very explanatory in terms of this is why we do this. This is what we do. These are the rules. He knows the defense. And so I think that's part of why you've seen him on the field early, and part of, I think, why Brian Flores is going to like him is because you can trust him with understanding the assignment on a defense where a lot is shape-shifting. And I think, we think a lot about Brian Flores and the aggression that we're probably going to see, but the other layer to it that KJ Osborne talked about, he's this spring, it was so muddy. They're moving guys from linebacker to safety, from safety to the flat. I mean, I think that's this.
What about KJ's arms? Have you seen them? Have you noticed them?
KJ.
Good Lord.
KJ in all facets. I mean, this guy, and losing Adam Thielen from a production on-field standpoint, I mean, it's totally understandable. But I think Adam meant a lot to that room, and I think Keenan McCardell is a great wide receivers coach. But to have a guy like KJ, who was older, who has built his way into what he is from the pick that he was, leading that room alongside JJ, it is a benefit to this team and to Kevin O'Connell that they have a guy like him, because to your point, he looks great. And I also think, I talked to him the other day, and the first thing he wanted to talk about was going to Africa as part of a mission this summer and helping kids. I mean, this guy is as aware of the right priorities, I think, as many others.
What a terrific utilization of the word hurtle. Wow, well done. Scene hurtles toward lumbering running backs and takes them down with force.
I actually think my editor added that.
Okay, well, why, you originally put hurdles?
No, I think I was trying to
hurtles is rapidly running or rapidly moving, I believe, right?
Well, I had beelines at the top.
Yeah.
And I did it.
Well, I wanted you to be pithy. That's what John taught you when you were 13. So therefore, beelines 2 words and hurdles 1. It's brilliant.
No, but I had beelines. At Georgia, he beelined to ball carriers, and then I wanted to have a callback later of this is when he looks at his best, he's beelining to guys, and there was a callback and there was a thought process there, I believe.
Flip on Georgia film, and with Lewis, he's impossible to miss. Scene hurtles toward lumbering running backs and takes them down with force.
Okay.
He scans the line of scrimmage, watches the opponent attempt a trick play, then recovers deep to swat the ball away from a receiver. He sprints downhill, wraps up tacklers, and stands over them with swagger.
With a rollicking song, he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously.
It's like that song was written for Lewis Singh. Now, I don't know if this is your A topic, but it's mine at this moment of the equation.
Oh, boy.
It's the BYU quarterback. Okay, now you've watched more than me, and we were both at minicamp, but nevertheless, you watch different things than I do at this stage of the equation. You know more about Jaron Hall than I do. You've talked to the offensive and defensive coordinators, I believe, with BYU from stories that you've done. So therefore, when it comes to his arm motion and the passes and the alacrity with which the ball comes out of his hand.
Alacrity.
I haven't paid attention to it because I don't have to pay attention to it, and I'll pay attention to it when I have to pay attention to it, which is now. Well, Wednesday during the sweat fest, I'm like, well, his throwing motion's different. It's not Phillip Rivers-esque, but it's not this prototypical Tom House quarterback camp throwing motion. It's just a little different. So where's that going to get us? So then I watch a couple more passes. But then yesterday I put the binoculars on him for a good 15 minutes. Even when he was taking snaps from Barnyard Turtle, part of the equipment team, just seeing him on his drop, his plant, legs are super big and strong. And he's not as tall as I thought. But nevertheless, the ball just comes out of his hand beautifully. I had no idea that he had the arm strength. I don't know if it's accurate, and we'll figure that out soon. His arm strength, like right hash, left boundary, getting the ball outside of the numbers. Jaron Hall's arm is strong, man. I didn't know that. Did you know that before the camp?
No, I mean, I don't think I knew it was that strong. I'll say this, too. It was funny. I tweeted after practice yesterday, like, he looked really solid, and someone replied to me, and they were like, this is the most annoying thing about you. You love this guy. And I was like, no, he just looked pretty good. There were two passes, and like I guess I laughed because it's just two passes. But realistically, there were two really impressive passes. There was one where he back-shouldered, I think, Thayer Thomas, whoever that may be, down the left sideline. There was another where he placed the ball perfectly over the top to Lucky Jackson from like the left hash to the right sideline. And I was like, wow, like, there was another play that he was scrambling right. And it was like the classic athletic quarterback. He threw it into trouble. I didn't like that so much, but he definitely, and I knew this just from talking to people, like, this guy's going to give himself probably any chance he can to maximize whatever he is. And I don't know where that ends up. And maybe it's third string quarterback in the NFL. Maybe it's backup. Maybe, I don't know. But I've talked to a lot of people this summer that I did, that this guy, he knows how to handle himself. He's poised and he's crafty and creative in a way that obviously piqued the Vikings' interest. Like, they didn't just draft the guy just because, there was a reason they drafted the guy with how many needs they have all over the place. And so, it was good to see yesterday. And I think, obviously, people are interested, and we'll keep watching.
With back to Lewis Cine, there still will be physical challenges, like there are for any player returning from such a gruesome injury, as young Alec writes at The Athletic. And there will be challenges involving the depth chart. Thus far, Cine has taken limited reps with what looks to be the number one defense. He could talk about that, but he thinks his play is what matters.
His face is weather beaten. He wears a hooded sash with a silver hat about his head and a bristling black mustache.
With the scribe version of John Facenda, I'm Paul Allen. We have a surprise for Alec. I've been texting with your father, John.
What?
And he would like you to stay another segment. So we're going to do that.
On the Fan.
Summer sun. That's the goal of 9 to noon. And Alec Lewis with The Athletic and theathletic.com. We like to replay press conferences from coordinators and coaches and stuff because they offer up some breadcrumbs that will get us to the chef salad that is the 2023 Minnesota Vikings season. Offensive coordinator Wes Phillips had one recently. In fact, yesterday. We'll play that back in the final hour. News du Nord with Nordo, mixing in some Twins and stuff like that. That'll take place in the final hour, and also off the 933, the caddy piece that I threw together about the life of a caddy and what are some keys to being a caddy with the 3M Open here in Blaine. Some interesting text messages came into the 64686, and we will share some of those with you. But for the purpose of this conversation, it's Alec Lewis of The Athletic and theathletic.com. A bonus segment, courtesy of his father, John, texting me and saying, my son's on fire. I know it's 2 segments. Can you possibly give him 3? So we opted to acquiesce, and here he is. Now, if Danielle Hunter is at the facility during practice, I wonder what he's doing. I mean, are you up in the Wilf office, the Wilf like side boardroom?
The locker room has like a beautiful fire and like TVs. I mean, it's like a movie theater.
I just wonder what he's doing.
No, it's a great question. The steam room.
Yeah.
I mean, you could find, I'm sure he's working on his body. I mean, knowing what you don't get in that kind of shape without doing that. But yeah, it's a funny question. Like, I mean, I get it. There's the contractual situation, but like, it almost be like you don't want to come outside at all. Like, I don't know. I think
they're going to eyeball him, and it's going to get right down to the wire. And I think he's going to play for this team.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable saying that yet.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say Brian Flores. I thought it was very interesting that Brian Flores said the other day they had an individual meeting, but he's like, that was not the first time we've talked. And Brian also said, like, we've talked in multiple places, which made it was interesting. And I don't know this for a fact, but I wonder if like Brian went out and visited him. And I really think just talking to people inside the building and hearing, I mean, they really believe this guy's an impact player. Now, the question is his camp and are his representatives willing to work with the team on a deal that they think fits them? I mean, you know this, but every thematic element of how they've built this team is they want flexibility for the future. And when you're about to allocate money to Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Christian Darrisaw is coming down the pipeline.
Boy, Hawkinson looks good. Holy cow.
Oh my gosh. And I was on the golf course 3 weeks ago in Alabama. I went home and some guy at him, it's like, oh, you write for the Vikings. What do you think? And I said, go look at the target share of all pass catchers in the league from when TJ Hawkinson got to the Vikings. And I believe he was like a top 12 target guy including wide receivers. And Kirk, you can already see it out there. Kirk trusts the heck out of him, which is so we overlook like how quickly that happened. And it's a testament to TJ and I think the way he goes about it. But yeah, he is and as a blocking tight end, I'm not really sure, but as a pass catcher, this guy makes an impact.
But with Danielle.
Yeah, just curious about how that situation ends up because the rumors have been, because he doesn't talk about any of this, that he wants $20 million a year. So let's say, because I'm trying to figure out what's more valuable. Him playing for the Vikings in 2023 is the most valuable on the front end for the now. If you're able to move him for a day 2 selection, that becomes more valuable in terms of youth and potential productivity over the next 4 years. And there's cost value there as well.
Yeah.
So then if he leaves in free agency, we make it work in 2023 and we just make the number enough for him to suit up, everyone's happy, and then he leaves in free agency. Now we'll get a potential compensatory pick that could be like a day 3, a 4th, or a 5th rounder. So what Kwesi, I think, has to balance is the now, we're better with Danielle. But in the long term, if we're going to play by that handbook, the idea of financial flexibility and can you help us win in 2025? I think that lends personally to the idea of I'd like to get some draft equity and wish Danielle the best of luck somewhere else.
I love how you laid that out. And let me backtrack here. When I say I would guess Danielle plays for this team this year, and that is not with a ballyhooed contract, okay? So now we're going to get down to, do you have the stomach to sit out an entire season? Does he? We'll see. I mean, because I don't think the team has the ability to move in a way he requires them to move to satisfy what his requests are. Now, what I like about what Nordo said, if you are in the camp believing this is Kirk Cousins' final season quarterbacking for the Minnesota Vikings, well, then you need 2nd and 3rd round draft capital. If you believe that there is going to be a monstrous move made that involves multiple 1st round picks and multiple picks to go get Clemson guy or North Carolina guy or Western Kentucky guy or whatever, well, then that's part of it, and the final part here is Flores low-key has started at the combine, and others have said this about him, is he doesn't necessarily have to have the superstars at a lot of spots to get done what he wants to get done. Well, that resonated with me, specifically with Danielle. And again, this quarterback situation is the A topic for the team. You kind of touched on it when you wrote about Cousins and Hunter and the team building, not just for now, for the future. That's at theathletic.com. But they're going to need that draft capital if they and they're also, by the way, with all due respect, going to not need to win 13 or 14 games.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
I think Nordo did really hit the nail on the head, and I think ultimately a lot of the decisions they made this offseason specifically have been thinking about the 24 and 25 and having the bandwidth at that time to be able to move their cap and allocate their cap money to multiple spots in a very flexible manner and paying premium guys. And I think with Daniil, the question is, I think, what kind of draft capital can you get? And I think that's where it's hard to understand. Can you get a second? I feel like that's going to be pretty difficult. If you can get a third, is that enough? I think that's the question. But if the Neal side was willing to move, I think they would have already kind of gotten to that place, and I think he would probably be closer to being on the field. So it's a very interesting situation. I think, to your point, PA, it applies directly to the team building thing. And I wrote this earlier this week after Kwesi and Kevin's press conferences, but Kwesi, I was pretty surprised. Like he essentially said, the way we're going about this is risky. Like he essentially said, we are if we rebuilt from the ground up, Chicago Bears style, what have you, it would be a little bit easier. And I think that has bared out in terms of like Howie Roseman has even said with the Eagles, when you bottom out, it's easier to kind of get right back up to the top. Yeah. So there are a lot of team building questions, and then it also, just to your point, comes right back around to the quarterback. And I think that's topic A for everything I think about with this team in terms of the direction in the future is, what are they going to do at that spot? Yes, it's been good to see Jaren Hall perform, and yes, I do think Kirk Cousins is going to have a hell of a year. But you're in a mode where if he has a hell of a year, then you're picking, say, 18th, which means you're going to have to move the farm to get up to get one of those elite guys, and that is a risky proposition.
If they're picking 18th, it was a failed season.
Why do you say that?
They need to be picking in the 20s. You know, you first round pick. I mean, it's if you're picking 18th, I mean that's 9 wins, that's 8 wins, and you know, last year I put them on 11 or 12 and they got 13. But this, you know, that's one of the. I started the week with two things that really intrigued me about this part of the equation. One, a 13-win team is flying under the radar, and you got a lot of people locally and or nationally being like, "You got lucky too many times." Well, that's so disrespectful because it's diminishing the prep work, the execution, and the gifts given by God to execute in pressure. So does it have to be 11-0 or 11 up, 0 down? No. But can it be 9-2? Absolutely. This offense potentially is a top 5 offense in the NFL. Top 5 offenses in the NFL scoring 25, 26 or more a game. They don't pick 18, generally speaking. Now, the defense will be better than last year. I don't know how much better, but it will be better. So 18, man, I mean, that's, you know.
Yeah, but I think it's realistic. And I mean, in some cases, the schedule's really difficult.
I agree.
And if you're picking 18, again, that's like the competitive rebuild. Yeah. Like you're picking 18th, and it puts you in such a tough situation to go get the quarterback.
But I get that, man. But I mean, with all due respect to your dad, sorry to cut you off. You don't lose Dalvin Cook, and then Eric Kendricks, Peterson, and those cats, and then be like, wow, that's it. I'm going to win 6 games. It's going to fall off to 7. No, and second, you can't. They can't have it both ways and talk out of both sides of their mouths. I mean, you can't have the offense you had last year and then say, second year in the system for the quarterback, second year here, second year there, and then not have it exponentially improve. You know what I'm saying? Because if it doesn't, then that's on the players and the staff.
Right. And I will say this, and I wrote this in that story, and I don't know if it really came through or not, but I think the Vikings are in a really good position with the coaching staff that you just mentioned. I mean, I think Kevin O'Connell and I mean, obviously externally, it seems like the fans have a lot of trust in him, but I just know talking to play, I mean, people really believe in what he's done and what he's about. And
O'Connell?
I think, yeah,
he's terrific.
Yeah. And I think from he's prioritized, Kevin has development. And I think it's a really smart thing in a sport where that you don't talk about player development a ton in football. In baseball, it's like the biggest thing. Are they developing through the minor league pipeline? And I think we are trending, and this is a story that I've been working on in some capacity, but I think we are trending to follow the baseball and model of like player development is huge. Can you win on the margins in terms of how you develop players? And I think Kevin is very focused on that, which I think gives them a chance, to your exact point, to not be picking 18th because they do develop the defense so much that potentially, and the offense is better, that you win 10 games. Again, the schedule is tough. That is I come back to that, but it's gonna be fascinating. I've said it a lot, but this feels like the rebuild portion of the competitive rebuild this year specifically. But if you can still win 10 games, I mean, I think that's a credit to the staff, the coaching staff, really.
Enjoy the practice today. Thank you for the time, and have a wonderful weekend, all right?
Appreciate you guys having me. It's always a blast.
No
Nordo,
problem.
Great to see you.
Yep, we thoroughly enjoy
thanks,
it.
PA.
Alec Lewis, The Athletic, theathletic.com, Alec_Lewis, if you would like to follow him on Twitter. It's 11